Well, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, can I add my welcome? I think the last time some of you were in here there was boxing and table tennis, but this is a massive place and this is a massive event, and congratulations to everybody who's made it possible. And I particularly want to welcome the ministers. I think there are something of the order of 100 ministers who came to the UK for the Education World Forum, which is probably a kind of educational Davos. We don't have ski slopes in this country, but it is a great event with a lot of opportunity for networking and the development of thinking about education, and you're all very welcome here. The key point I want to start with is education has become a massive industry. Of course, we educate for education's sake. Learning is important, but it's also a massive global industry and expanding very rapidly, probably now second to the health sector in terms of the overall transactions that are done. We're talking about today about $4.5 billion, getting to over trillion, not billion, got my notes wrong, and about $6.5 trillion in 2017. And the numbers we're dealing with of students who want to acquire learning is absolutely staggering, and the challenge associated with that. In 1970, there were something of the order of 30 million young people becoming students. Now we're talking well over 150 million. And it's expanding at a very rapid rate. And that is posing enormous challenges. I mean, how do you actually meet the sheer volume of people wanting to learn? How do we do it? Physically, how do we do it? Financially, how do you do it? In UK, we've had the painful problem of trying to adjust to a system that was designed for 1 in 10 young people going to university, when we now have 4 in 10. And the financial model has had to change, and it's been very painful and very difficult and politically quite toxic, but we had to deal with it. I haven't yet seen today's figures, but I understand in broad terms demand is continuing to rise. We have the largest number ever of young people from deprived backgrounds now wanting to go on to study at university, despite the change in the model. But every country has got that challenge. And there's another kind of challenge as well, which is adapting to the very, very rapid change in skill requirements. Of the 10 most demanded jobs out there, none of those existed at the beginning of the last decade. You're helping to prepare people for a world that didn't exist when the teachers were going through their training and preparing for education. And at the heart of that is technology change. We've had an 8-fold, 9-fold increase in internet access within the last decade. E-learning is now expanding at about 25% a year. We've got coming over the horizon very, very rapidly in the higher and further education area, the so-called MOOCs, the massive online open courses, developed very, very rapidly over the last year or so in some of the key American universities. But in the UK, we now have the Open University with an online platform, now reaching 11 universities this year. Edinburgh, which works in partnership with an American group, is launching a platform for about 250,000 students. Now, of course, this is massive, it's expanding rapidly, but it poses real challenges because in a way it's easy to teach and learn through MOOCs. There's a real technical problem of accreditation. How do you do examinations? How do you validate honestly? And that's an organizational and a technical challenge, which many of you in this room are interested in working on. Let me just say a brief word about how we in this country, the UK, are trying to address this challenge of education as an industry, as well as education as a desirable thing in its own right. One of the things I've done with my colleagues is launch what we call an industrial strategy, trying to work in partnership with business and trying to think long-term, not opportunistically. And we're doing that for some of the obvious candidates, aerospace, motor cars, life sciences. But probably the biggest long-term industry in this country is and is going to be education, training, technology, teaching. And one of our biggest export industries already, I don't just mean overseas students, but helping many developing countries to develop campuses and to develop technologies, the reason why many of you are here. And we're bringing together the educators, the technology providers, the trainers, in order to create a strategy where we coordinate and drive the training and the technological innovation. And we're standing behind that in a variety of ways. There's some really big emerging technologies in the UK, which I think are quite unique here so far. Haptic technology, which has been used in dentistry, for example, creating virtual movement for training purposes. And assistive technology, whereby people with dyslexia and other conditions can be helped to perform on an entirely compatible basis with others, overcoming a significant learning difficulty. We're trying to put in place a whole series of programs that underline and support that technology. We have a series of institutions now being created which we call Catapults, which bring together the best of technology and link it with the capacity of universities. We have what we call a small business research initiative, helping innovative companies with procurement into the public sector. But I'd just like to finish with one point. The great strength of this exhibition here is that it brings together the best of the public sector, teachers who want to improve and innovate with business. And spinning out of these exhibitions has been a whole series of real success stories for business. I've been introduced to several of them this morning. There was a Yorkshire machine tool company called Boxford, which is producing what in my days many years ago would have been called metalwork and woodwork machines, which are now being used throughout the British school system, but also across the world, expanding very, very rapidly with a unique technology. There was a company called EduTech, which has just won a major contract through the African Development Bank working in Eritrea with innovative ways of teaching. There's another company called Littlebridge, which has found a very, very successful way of teaching English, and it's expanded from virtually zero at this exhibition last year to 5 million plus exports in 1 year as a result of the contacts and the networking that took place here. And that's what this event is all about. I in many ways envy many of you. You're in a really exciting space. A lot is happening, the technology, the opportunities, and I look forward to sharing more of it with you. Thank you very much indeed.